There's a kind of leadership the world doesn't teach. A leadership that isn't built on authority or power, but on presence. A leadership where you don't have to convince anyone, control anything, or stand on a pedestal to be heard. Instead, you lead through frequency. You lead through the energy you embody. I used to believe leadership meant being a loud voice, the one with the clearest plan, the one who could take charge and make quick decisions in every situation. Then I had an opportunity to go through an 18-month leadership training that taught me personal leadership. But the deeper I moved into my own journey, the more I realized something very different. Whether they consciously realize it or not, people don't follow authority. They follow alignment. They follow coherence. They follow truth they can feel. And no matter what you say, your vibration speaks louder. Think about someone in your life who made you feel safe without saying a word, or someone whose presence alone made you want to become a better version of yourself. You weren't influenced by their title or their resume. You were influenced by their energy, the way they carried themselves, the calm in their eyes, the steadiness in their breath. That is heart led leadership. It's not something you perform, it's something you become. Leading by vibration means understanding that your energy field is always teaching. Even when you're silent, even when you're still, even when you're not trying, people learn more from your resonance than from your instructions. They learn from how you regulate yourself, how you respond to challenges, how you stay grounded in the storm. Your frequency is the real curriculum. When your frequency is anchored, people feel it. When your energy is clean, people trust it. When your vibration is coherent, people naturally attune to it. This is how influence happens without force. It happens through resonance. Heart led leadership begins with the subtle question: what am I radiating right now? Not what am I telling people to do, not how do I get them to follow me, but what is the energy behind my presence? Because energy doesn't lie. Your frequency communicates your intention before your words ever do. If you tell people to trust you, but you're anxious inside, they won't feel safe. If you tell people to slow down while rushing through your own life, they won't follow. If you speak about possibility but embody fear, your words lose their power. Your vibration teaches louder than your instructions. We often underestimate the impact of energy because it's invisible, but it's the most honest part of you. The people around you may not always understand your words, but they will always understand your vibration. Leading by vibration means you become the example, not the enforcer. It means you don't push, you inspire. You don't demand, you demonstrate. You don't overpower, you uplift. This is how leadership becomes an act of love instead of an act of control. There's nothing more powerful than someone who walks into a room and shifts the entire atmosphere just by being aligned. Not because they're special, but because they are coherent. When your energy is aligned, you naturally elevate others, not through effort, but through presence. True leadership is resonance. But leading through frequency requires inner work. It requires honesty. It requires becoming aware of your own patterns, the places where fear interrupts your truth, where insecurity dims your light, where ego tries to protect instead of empower. Because when you are out of alignment, your energy broadcasts that too. People can feel when you are leading from fear, even if you dress it up as competence. They can feel when you're trying to prove something, instead of embodying something. They can feel when you speak from a wound instead of wisdom. Heart led leadership is not about being perfect, it's about being attuned. It's about knowing when your vibration drops and bringing yourself back home with compassion. It's about understanding that your inner state sets the tone for the conversation, for the relationship, for the team, for the entire space you are in. I've learned that the most powerful leaders aren't the ones who never waver. They're the ones who know how to return. They return to presence, to center, to truth again and again. Their resilience isn't force, it's coherence. It's the ability to regulate their energy no matter what is happening around them. People trust energetic stability. They relax around it. They rise around it. They soften around it. When your vibration is steady, the people around you don't just follow, they expand. And that is the essence of heart led leadership. Not pulling people forward by force, but raising your own frequency so that others naturally rise with you. When you embody calm, others feel safer. When you embody clarity, others gain direction. When you embody love, others remember their own. When you embody authenticity, others feel permission to be themselves. Your frequency becomes the lighthouse, not telling people what to do, but showing them what alignment looks like. I want you to think for a moment about the leaders who have impacted you the most deeply, the ones whose presence changed something in you. Maybe they said very little, maybe they didn't have a fancy title, but they lived from a vibration that felt like truth. And that truth awakened something inside you. The greatest leaders don't create followers, they create leaders. And they do that by living in alignment with their own frequency, consistently, gently, unapologetically. Heart led leadership also requires humility, not the kind that diminishes you, but the kind that recognizes you are a channel, not the source. Your wisdom doesn't come from superiority, it comes from attunement. You influence not because you're above others, but because you remember who you are. When you lead from vibration, leadership stops being a role and becomes a way of being. Every interaction becomes a transmission. Every conversation becomes an offering. Every moment becomes an opportunity to embody the energy you wish to see amplified in the world. Because the world doesn't learn from what you preach, it learns from what you radiate. So, what are you radiating when you speak, when you walk into a room, when you face conflict, when you are tired, when you're excited? Your energy field is always speaking, even in silence. You are teaching. That's why self regulation is the foundation of conscious leadership, not to control your emotions, but to meet them, to understand them, to integrate them. Because when you are in tune with yourself, you don't project your unprocessed energy onto others. You become a clear signal instead of static. Leading through frequency means your growth becomes the team's growth. Your healing becomes the room's healing. Your alignment becomes the pathway others can feel their ways into. It's not about managing people, it's about managing your vibration so that everything you touch reflects that coherence. Energy doesn't ask for permission, it influences naturally. So, when you radiate peace, you elevate the space. When you radiate confidence, you activate potential. When you radiate gratitude, you cultivate abundance. When you radiate integrity, you anchor trust. Your frequency becomes a tuning fork, the energetic reference point others unconsciously harmonize with. This is why leadership is not something you step into when you get a promotion. It's something you embody in how you breathe, how you speak, how you carry yourself through your everyday life. Leadership begins long before you are seen. Heart-led leadership also means recognizing that not everyone will match your vibration. And it's not your job to lower yourself to make them comfortable. Your job is simply to stay aligned. Alignment doesn't require pushing anyone away. It naturally reveals who is ready to rise with you. When you lead by vibration, you stop feeling responsible for other people's reactions. You realize your only responsibility is to your own frequency, because that is what truly creates impact. You don't teach people how to treat others by lecturing them. You teach them by how you treat others. You don't teach boundaries by explaining them endlessly. You teach them by embodying them with grace. You don't cultivate trust by demanding it. You cultivate it by being trustworthy in your energy. This is why heart-led leadership feels so liberating. You don't manipulate. You don't impress. You don't prove. You simply become. And from that becoming, you influence the world more deeply than authority ever could. Personal power is silent. It doesn't need to announce itself. It reveals itself through coherence. When you raise your vibration, you become a leader in every space you enter. Not because you won the role, but because others can feel the alignment you carry. And nothing is more inspiring than someone who leads themselves with love. This is the kind of leadership the world needs now. Leadership rooted in truth, not ego. Leadership expressed through energy, not force. Leadership that elevates others, not by directing or even forcing them, but by embodying what is possible. So the next time you wonder whether you're doing enough as a leader, ask yourself instead, what is the vibration I'm holding right now? Because that vibration is speaking louder than anything you say. And when you leave from that place, anchored, open, coherent, others will rise, not because you told them to, but because your energy reminded them of their own potential. Heart-led leadership isn't about shining brighter than others. It's about shining so authentically that others remember their own light too. That truly is the purest form of leadership there is. And as a reminder, you are a leader.